Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Soburunessa Chaudhary Priya, welcoming you all on behalf of the Climate Bridge Fund at this session on climate resilience, hands-on experiences from urban hotspots. This session is being held at the 3rd Urban and Regional Planning Conference. So to start this session, I will first and foremost request all our honorable guests to take their place on their stage. I request our chair of the session, Dr. Ishrat Islam, Dean, Faculty of Architecture and Planning, and Professor, Department of Urban and Regional Planning, Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, BUET, to take her stage. Thank you. And special guest, Mr. Florian Hollen, Head of Development Cooperation, German Embassy in Bangladesh. Dr. Mohammad Liaquat Ali, Director, Climate Change Program and Urban Development Program at BRAC. He is also the member of the CBF Trustee Board. Our guest of honor, SM Mehdi Hassan, General Secretary, Bangladesh Institute of Planners. Ms. Diba F. Haq, Portfolio Coordinator, Urban Development, KfW Bangladesh Office. Last but not least, Dr. Mohammad Gholam Rabbani, Head of Climate Bridge Fund Secretariat at BRAC. I thank you all for joining us at this session today, and I will now briefly go through the plan that we have for the session. First of all, I will request Dr. Mohammad Liaquat Ali to deliver his welcome speech for us. Followed by that, we will have a keynote presentation by Dr. Gholam Rabbani. After that, we have our partners who will be presenting their respective posters, and then we will have an open discussion. And to wrap up the session, we will hear from all our honorable guests. I think we have some housekeeping announcement. Do we have a representative? Okay, should I? Okay. So I will now request Dr. Mohammad Liaquat Ali to deliver the welcome speech. Thank you.
I just check whether it is morning or evening. So good evening, everybody. So good afternoon. So this is parallel session 6. It is about climate resilience, hands-on experience from urban hotspot. First of all, I like to thank everybody participated in this session. I like to express my gratitude and thanks to people sitting on the dais because they are very busy persons and they finally manage sometimes to attend and hosting this session. I like to thanks to the poster presenters because as a trustee member, I like to say a few words. You know, our journey at the beginning was not that very smooth. Because, you know, Climate Bridge Fund, it's a fund. I think you have already known because you are implementing, I think, almost year or more than a year. You know, first of all, it's about urban in 5 cities. And then it is about climate migrant. Again, and it's about resilience building. So when we are talking about resilience building, there are certain things is very much come to or surfaced. And nowadays, there is a principle come into surface again is called locally led adaptation. In Bangladesh, you know, from government side, there is a fund, it's called Climate Change BCCTF, Bangladesh Climate Change Trust Fund. And before that, there was a fund is called BCCRF, Bangladesh Climate Resilience Fund. You know, in BCCTF, funds come from the government and government agency applied. There is a law, guideline, procedure set, and according to that, government agency can apply and approve and implement. And there is a provision of 20% for the NGO. Again, in BCCRF, it was a donor fund. 6 donors come together and gave the responsibility to the World Bank to administrated the funding, but it was not that successful. Having said that, KfW and German government realized the people are in need are the most vulnerable and marginalized people. Normally, climate fund does not reach to them. So how we can best possible way to reach to them? So that's why the journey of CBF started. You know, it's a civil society initiative, researchers, academicians, and other NGO, including BRAC, can apply. And based on that, you are here today. So you have already implemented some of your activities in the ground. People are benefited. And today, you can explain even better what are the things went well, what are the things to be modified or changed. So I will be not talking too much. Other guests will do that. So once again, thank you everybody. Thank you the news media person, electronic media person, and thank you the organizer to host such a beautiful event, and also thanks for inviting me as a co-chair. Thank you everybody.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful speech. I hope that helps us set the scene for the session. And now we have some announcements from the venue, Pan Pacific Sonargaon, Dhaka. So I request their representative to kindly.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon. On behalf of Pan Pacific Sonargaon, Dhaka, I detailed Squadron Leader Salma, Chief of Security, welcome you all in a short briefing on safety and security. You all know that this is an international 5-star hotel and which is owned by Bangladesh government. So to uphold our security standard, we comply with all the terms and conditions incorporated from our headquarters, corporate headquarters, as well as Bangladesh government. And for your knowledge, this entire property is guarded by our own security team, and our security team is mostly from the personnel of armed forces, retired armed forces personnel. We have a small answer camp, that means we have paramilitary forces answer, they are armed, and a small group of Bangladesh police from the local police station also stay here for your safety and security. We have installed all the modern and latest technological equipment and devices. For your information, this venue is monitored and this is under surveillance of our IP camera system. And regarding our firefighting and evacuation drill, we have total 34 fire panels in the entire property. And for this venue, we have three at 3 different sites. And in case of any evacuation, in case of any emergency, if evacuation is needed, we'll have our announcement in our PA system, and our security staffs will be here to usher you, to guide you to the assembly point. And till then, please remain seated. We have a small medical center too. We have a doctor and a small pathological facilities with. And one more thing, please take care of your own portable belongings, personal belongings like mobile, your wallet. This is absolutely your responsibility. And at last, I wish you all the best and a very successful event here. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know about the security measures. Now I would like to invite Dr. Gholam Rabbani to deliver his keynote presentation on CBF, an innovative financing system for strengthening urban resilience in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priya. Honorable Chair, Professor Dr. Ishrat Islam, Dean Faculty of Architecture and Planning, BUET. Our special guest, Mr. Florian Holland, Head of Development Cooperation, German Embassy in Bangladesh. Dr. Mohammad Liaquat Ali, Director, Climate Change Program, Urban Development Program, and member of the CBF Trustee Board. Our guest of honor, Mr. S.M. Mehdi Hassan, and our colleague, Diva Farahak from KFW Bangladesh office. It is a great pleasure for me to share the Climate Bridge Fund mechanism and some of the field-level experiences on climate adaptive actions or resilience actions being supported and implemented in different climate vulnerable locations in Bangladesh. We do have some of our partners to share some of the experiences from the field, but before we go to that presentations, I will share how Climate Bridge Fund has been established and how this mechanism is supporting these projects in Bangladesh. So, in next 10 minutes, I will be very briefly speaking on the mechanism, as I was saying, and how this mechanism functions, from the CBF Secretariat level and from other principal stakeholders. To give you a brief about the Climate Bridge Fund and the background on climate change impact on the urban areas in Bangladesh, if you look at the different sources at the international level and also at the national level, if I give a specific example of IPCC 5th Assessment Report and 6th Assessment Report and also National Adaptation Plan of Bangladesh, it clearly projects that the number of climate-induced migrants will be increased in the country. And it will happen because of climatic disasters that will adversely affect in the rural areas in the country. So when they arrive in different destinations, which means the city corporation area or the municipality area, they experience another set of climatic disaster in those destinations. So the beauty of this Climate Bridge Fund is they address the problems of the climate migrants and also the people at the risk of being displaced. So which means there are two types of problems that we are addressing through Climate Bridge Fund mechanism. And the goal of the Climate Bridge Fund is to achieve or build the capacity of the institutions, the local government institutions, and local non-government organizations, local authorities, to deal with the climate change impact in the urban areas and also reduce the vulnerability of the climate migrants and displaced population, the people where they are living. So if you look at the fund structure, the resources comes from the German government through KFW, and these resources comes to BRAC and then BRAC to CVF. And in CVF, you can see the two windows that we have in this structure to support the NGOs to implement adaptation or resilience projects. One is climate change window and the other is emergency response window. And if we talk about very briefly on the climate finance model, climate bridge funding model, you can see that the money comes from the KFW, as I was saying at the beginning, to BRAC, and then it comes to the project account, which is CVF. And the CVF actually, invest the 90% of the total resources to a government treasury bond, and then, they use the 10% in the first year to support the projects and, to support the secretariat operation. And the income of this investment we use to support the project implementation from the second year, which means we started in 2020 and then, we use the 10%, to support in the first year and from the income from the second year. 2021, we supported projects, under the climate change window to implement these adaptive actions. And the beauty of this Climate Bridge Fund, mechanism is, if you look at the different global fund, international fund, even the national fund that Dr. Liaquat Ali was talking about, in most of the cases, this is one-go mechanism. But if you consider adaptation, it is not a short-term issue. It's a long-term issue. The support is needed for the long-term and sustainable adaptive actions. So this is the mechanism which actually makes sure that 90% of the total resources remain untouched. So the only income of this investment is being used to support the adaptive actions. That is the beauty that we always talk about. That is the selling point that we see from our mechanism, and that remains sustainable, until it continues, for long term. So, if we just give few more examples on the how Climate Bridge Fund remains unique in terms of a financial mechanism. If you look at local ownership, every project idea has to be consulted with the local authorities, local stakeholder. Bottom-up approach, the project idea needs to be discussed, consulted, communicated with the target communities. Without their consultation, we do not accept, the CBF stakeholders, CBF secretariat does not accept any project idea, any proposal. Innovative practice, this is another, important criteria that we always encourage innovative ideas from the local level to implement the project. Gender and socially inclusive. One of the major criteria from CVF mechanism is we strongly encourage every proponent to consider at least 50% women beneficiaries for their target, communities, target beneficiary community. So that's the fourth one. And the fifth one is bridging the short-term to sustainable model. If you look at the different areas, in the rural areas and also in the urban areas, many projects, remain idle. Their services remain idle at the end of the 3 years projects or 5 years projects. The CVF mechanism encourages the proponent, to consider those idle services in their project and submit it to us. And we make sure that those small-scale, short-term projects become sustainable projects, repairing small difficulties in those services. So we consider that project. And the last point is generating knowledge and evidence. We do not exclude the knowledge management, component, knowledge management practices from this mechanism, which means CVF, of course, encourage the project implementation, directly address the problems of the communities, but at the same time, we capture the knowledge that is being generated in the implementation process from the communities and also from the secretariat. So that is another strength. If you look at the stakeholders, I talked about the CVF Trustee Board, KFW, BRAC, Advisory Committee of the Climate Bridge Fund, everyone, all stakeholders remain very critical role with the monitoring supervision of the CBF Secretariat works, and also CBF Secretariat looks at the implementation process on the ground. And implementing partners remain one of the major stakeholder in the mechanism. In terms of the CBF projects at a glance awarded in 2020, if you look at the total number of projects, we already supported 14 projects under emergency response window and 8 projects under climate change window. 4 projects in 2020 and 4 projects in 2021. And currently we are covering 26 out of 64 districts in Bangladesh, but of course mainly in the city corporation and municipality areas. Just to give you a progress of what we did in last 3 years, You can see our target is 163,000, under the climate change window, and we have already reached 143,000 people in the project locations. Under emergency response window, we targeted 300,000, over 300,000 people, and we have been able to reach over 53,000 people. Over the 3 years, we do have some of this is my last slide. We do have some of the lessons that we have learned from the field and also from the CVF project selection process. The first lessons that we have that we want to share with you is, in most of the cases, you need to understand the differences between the development projects and the adaptation projects. The first technical point that we always see in the project ideas is projects do not adequately consider the climate projections. What does that climate projections mean? You see, what is going to happen in this particular area, say for Khulna, in Satkhira, in those city corporation area or in the Poroshaba area, due to climate change, in 2030, in 2040, in 2050. And then the services that we design needs to integrate those climate projections. So we see the lacking in those, in the project design. And the second important point that we need to, share with you is, as I was saying, the difference between the development projects and the adaptation projects. The IPCC and the scientific community encourage that when you design an adaptation project, you make sure that you integrate co-benefits, mitigation benefits. So you always encourage, once you design a project, a service, you make sure that we can have some mitigation benefits, or if you design a mitigation benefits, you have an adaptation benefit as well. That's how we make it, cost-effective, sustainable, projects on the ground. And there's few more examples that you see, but one more, lesson that we want to share with you is, when you design this climate risk fund mechanism, I remember, the discussion between BRAC and KFW started from 2015, and in fact, officially, it was launched in November 2019. I understand the long, pathway that BRAC and KFW followed to establish this. And we have this, our guest of honor. I remember his continuous engagement when this CVF was conceived, and the lesson is, during that that designing period between 2015 and 2019, the fund mechanism considered that the tax will be paid at the rate of 10% from the income. But it is unfortunate that the government, policy has been changed. And from 2020 to 2022, in last 2 years, we paid at the rate of 25%. But it's very unfortunate, just 2 months back, government has decided to deduct 22.5%. So it has been increased again by 2.5% more. So this is something that we need to really consider, if we plan or for replication of this CVF mechanism. So that's one thing. But I strongly see that this experience, this mechanism is very useful, this fruitful, because it does not have implications, negative implication to support any projects. If we keep the standard like we need to support 4 projects, 6 projects, then it has implications. But if we can support 2 projects, it does not have. The mechanism does not have any problem. Mechanism does not have any difficulties. So we can function. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rabbani. Now we will move on to our presentation, poster presentation session. I request each of you to follow the number that is placed on your table and then move over to the number placed above each of the posters. Our volunteers will help you navigate through this. So, and if you have any questions for Dr. Rabbani, we will have those later in the open discussion session. I also request our honorable guests to kindly split up and follow each group And then we will move around the room in clockwise pattern. Thank you.
আচ্ছা, আমি একটু সহজ করে বাংলায় বলি, বুঝতে সুবিধা হবে। থ্যাংক ইউ। সেটি হচ্ছে আমাদের এখন পোস্টার প্রেজেন্টেশন আছে, আমাদের এখানে 6টি অর্গানাইজেশন আছে, তারা পোস্টারে রেডি আছে। আমরা প্রত্যেকটা টেবিলে নাম্বার দেওয়া আছে, আমরা সেই নাম্বারের পার্টনার কাছে চলে যাব, তারা প্রেজেন্টেশন করবে 5 মিনিট এবং রোটেশনালি আমরা ক্লক ওয়াইজ ঘুরবো আর কি। হ্যাঁ, আপনাদের সবাই যে টেবিলের নাম্বার দেওয়া আছে সেই অনুযায়ী আপনার সেই সমস্ত টেবিলে চলে যাবেন কাইন্ডলি। সো আমি রিকোয়েস্ট করছি প্রেজেন্টাররা আপনারা উপস্থিত হন, আপনাদের টেবিলে রেডি থাকেন। আমরা সময় দেবো 5 মিনিট, তবে কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকলে আমরা এখানে ফিরে এসে আবার করবো আর কি। So I will ring the bell now and the presenters will start their presentation. They will get only 5 minutes to present. Okay, right now, do you ready? Okay, start. Your time is over. Please move to the next right group. Please move to the right next group. Thank you. Thank you. Go to the next group. Thank you so much. You have to go to the next group. So if you have more questions, we have the space to answer the questions. So please move to the next group. Group 3, please move to the next group. Group 3, please move to your right group. The next right. Group 3. মশির ভাই আপনারা পরবর্তী গ্রুপকে ডেকে নেন। গ্রুপ 3, গ্রুপ 3 আপনারা ডান দিকের গ্রুপে চলে আসুন। হ্যাঁ, ডান দিকের গ্রুপে চলে যাবেন, ক্লকওয়াইজ ডান দিকের গ্রুপে চলে যাবেন। গ্রুপ 2 আসবে 1-এ। অসুবিধা নেই, একটা ফাঁকাই থাকবে, অসুবিধা নেই। আপনাদের কোনো একটা গ্রুপ ফাঁকা থাকবে, ব্রেক পাবে, এটা সমস্যা না, ঠিক আছে? যারা প্যানেলিস্ট আছে তাদের জন্য ঠিক আছে 6 জন এই জামির ভাই একটু প্রিয়া আপাকে ডাকেন তো প্রিয়া আপা ছিলেন আচ্ছা প্রিয়াপা এক মিনিট আপা একটু ওনাকে নামগুলো বলেন না লিখে নেন কেউ প্রেস পাবে কারা কারা পাবে একটু লিখে নেন ওইকে অ্যানাউন্স করতে হবে টাইম ইজ ওভার প্লিজ মুভ টু ইউর নেক্সট রাইট গ্রুপ আপনারা ডান দিকের গ্রুপে চলে যান অর্থাৎ 6 নাম্বার যাবে 5-এ 5 যাবে 4-এ 4 যাবে 3-এ 3 যাবে 2-এ 2 যাবে 1-এ 1 যাবে 6-এ আপনারা আপনাদের ডান দিকের গ্রুপে চলে যান 5 নাম্বার গ্রুপ যাবেন 4-এ 4 যাবেন 3-এ 3 যাবেন 2-এ 2 যাবেন 1-এ 1 যাবেন 6-এ প্লিজ মুভ টু ইউর নেক্সট গ্রুপ হচ্ছে না ওকে থাক ভাই চলে গেছে না এখন তাহলে থাকছে কয়জন 3 জন কে কে রাব্বানি ভাই তারপরে হচ্ছে ফোরলান পেয়েছে গতকালকে দিয়েছে আচ্ছা তারপরে হচ্ছে আপাকে দিয়েছেন গতকালকে আপাকে দিয়েছেন মেহেদি ভাইকে দেওয়া লাগবে না তাহলে রাব্বানি ভাই পাবে দিবা পাবা দুজন আরেকজন লিয়াকত ভাই ওটা দিয়ে দিন রাব্বানি ভাই হাতে নিয়ে নিবে ঠিক আছে ওকে আপা হ্যাঁ আপা কি আপা তাহলে রাব্বানি ভাইকে দিতে বলবেন বাবাকে দিতে বলবেন অন বিহাফ অফ লিয়াকত ভাই রাব্বানি ভাই নিবে Okay, please move to your next group. Your time is over. আপনারা যারা একে আছেন তারা 6 চলে আসেন, 6 যারা আছেন তারা 5-এ চলে যাবেন, 5-এরা 4-এ চলে যাবেন, 4-এ যারা দাঁড়িয়ে আছেন তারা 3-এ যাবেন, 3, 2 এবং 2 1-এ। Please move to your next group. Please move to your next group. So group number 6, please move to group number 5. Thank you so much. Thank you on behalf of the presenters. Please move to your next right group. Group number 5, please go to group number 4. Group number 4, please go to the next group. Group number 3. Group 3, please move to group number 2. Group 2, please move to group number 1. Please move to your next group. You see? না তা ঠিক লাইভ একটা জিনিস আছে আব্দুল্লাহ দেখলেই হবে না লোক কমে যাচ্ছে কেন আমাদের লোক কমে যাচ্ছে কেন লোক কমে যাচ্ছে না কমে যাচ্ছে না অনেক লোক বাচ্চা কাচ্চারা যারা এসছে তারা চলে গেছে উঁচু হয়ে গেছে বুঝছো না বেশি ফ্লাশ হচ্ছে ফ্লাশ ছাড়াই দেন না দরকার নেই অসুবিধা নেই কিন্তু যে পিছনে ও এই ছবিটা আসছে না এই ছবিটা বন্ধ করে ঠিক আছে এই আর কয়টা গ্রুপ কটা থাকবে তিনটা হয়ে গেল ওকে আপনাদের সময় শেষ, ইউর টাইম ইজ ওভার, প্লিজ মুভ টু দ্য নেক্সট গ্রুপ। পরবর্তী গ্রুপে চলে যান। আপনারা যারা দাঁড়িয়ে আছেন 1 নম্বর গ্রুপে তারা 6 নম্বরে চলে যাবেন, 6 নম্বরে যাবেন 5-এ, 5-4-এ, 4-3-এ, 3-2-এ এবং 2-1-এ। প্লিজ মুভ টু ইউর নেক্সট গ্রুপ, প্লিজ ইউর টাইম ইজ ওভার, প্লিজ মুভ টু ইউর নেক্সট গ্রুপ। On behalf of the presenters, I am requesting you to move to your next group. If you have any questions, we have some time. We will answer your questions. After these sessions, we will answer your question. Please move to your right group. Okay, 5 number group, আপনারা ছেড়ে দেন। 4 number group, please move to your next group. 3 নম্বর গ্রুপ যাবে 2-এ, 2 যাবে 1-এ। প্লিজ ইউর টাইম ইজ ওভার। Okay, last warning, please move to your right. Last warning, please move to your right group. Last warning, so group number 4 will go to group number 3. Group 3 will go to the group 2, 2 will 1 and 1 in 6. Please, group number 5, move to your right. Next group, group number 5. Thank you so much. Group number 1 আপনারা ছেড়ে দেন। Group number 1, water aid আপনারা একটু ছেড়ে দেন, ওনাদেরকে আসুক এখানে। নতুন আসছে? ওকে, ফাইন।
So your time is over. Please move to your next and last group. Please move to your next and last group. Your time is over. Please move to your next and last group. So group number 6 will go to group number 5. Group number 5 will go to group number 4. Group number 4 will go to group number 3. 3 will go to 2 and 2 will go to 1. So this is your last group. I am requesting all the group members to move to the next group. Please move to the next group. So this is your last group. Group number 1 এ যারা আছেন তারা 6 এ চলে আসেন। গ্রুপ যারা 1 এ আছেন তারা 6 এ চলে আসেন। 2 কে 1 এ আসার সুযোগ করে দেন। So please move to your next group. Okay, যারা গ্রুপে 1 এ ছিলেন তারা 6 এ চলে আসেন। Okay, this is your last group. So you will get only 5 minutes to hear from the presenters.
ওই গ্রুপগুলো নিয়েছেন সবগুলোই না একটু ফ্লাশ দিয়ে নিয়ে দেন সবই দেন ভাই প্রিয়াপাকে ডাকেন টাইম হয়ে গেছে Okay, time is gone. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please take your seat. Time is over. Please take your seat. If you have any questions, we have much time to answer your question. Please take your seat.
I request our honorable guests to come back up on stage. Can we please have a big round of applause for all our implementing partners who presented their wonderful posters. So I will once again thank our partners, including WaterAid Bangladesh, Eco-Social Development Organization, ESDO, National Development Program, NDP, SKS Foundation, Dusto Shasto Kendro, DSK, Urban Development Program of BRAC. Thank you all for sharing your wonderful work at the grassroots level with support from CBF. And now we will move on to the open discussion session, and I will request Dr. Rabbani to kindly moderate this session. You can now ask all your questions. We will come to you turn by turn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priya. It's now open discussion session. So if you have any questions, clarifications, or any information, if you want to make a comment, this is the right time to do it. Okay. In fact, as I was saying in my presentation, let me hear the first question. Yeah.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. I am M.A. Tahir, practitioner planner. Actually, my question is, this is the session, actually the hazard related activities, climate resilient hazard, actually in Islam areas. But after that, I observed the presentation and the projects. Actually, there is, I think, there is a lackings of fire, also a hazard for especially the slum area. So, so that you can consider the fire safety for the slum dwellers, because there is a lackings. I saw the presentations and the projects. So I think the fire is also a hazard. That's my question. Is like, thank you very much.
Yeah. Next, Shahrin.
Yeah, hello.
Thank you so much. My name is Shahrin. I work for the Global Center on Adaptation at Locally Led Adaptation Program. I see like the major focus, almost all the projects, is the climate migrants. And I know that CBF also has an operating definition for climate migrants. But my question is how all the projects actually track the climate migrants, because they move around, they sometimes get evicted or change this location. So I know it's a very complicated process, but just interested to know how this is being tracked.
Thank you so much. I think this is a very interesting question. I used to face this question in most of the cases when I discuss with the development partners and also the researchers, technical experts. What happens is, in most of the cases, the proponent or the implementing partner, go to the target community, and they used to develop a beneficiary profile. So when they develop this beneficiary profile, they use a set questions, 5, 6, 10, 15, it depends, on the implementing partner. So they used to keep basic questions, who are you, what is your introduction, and when did you come here, and why did you come here, how did you come here, what was your occupation in the origin, what is your current occupation. So these are the basic questions they ask. So if the responses, they find that one of the factors they mention about the climate related disasters, for example, cyclones, riverbank erosion, flood. So these are the reasons, factors they mention, and they, put the tick mark, on those, those respondent. So that respondent household becomes the climate migrant household. So currently that's the process, the basic or initial process that they follow in most of the cases. All right, but my point is, currently, if we carefully read and conduct those exercises, my personal opinion, is very difficult to identify the climate migrants or term them as climate migrants, because it doesn't mean that they come just because of those hazards. So the factors are, different, economic reasons, in broad term we call push factors, pull factors. So one of the factors, in many cases we find as climatic disaster. So that's how they do it. But to respond to, Mehdi Bhai's question, in fact, it's not Mehdi Bhai's question. Question was from some other participant, but he was raising this. The BRAC and KFW, when they designed this Climate Bridge Fund, back in 2019 officially, they agreed on some priority, locations, okay, to support these climate migrants in those 5 locations. What are those 5 locations? Borishal City Corporation, Khulna City Corporation, Rajshahi City Corporation, Shirazganj Pauroshobha, and Satkhira Pauroshobha. So these are the 5 agreed priority areas, and not only KFW and BRAC. This was agreed in the Economic Relations Divisions, Government of Germany and Government of Bangladesh, I would say. I think that's the answer. So these are the priority districts. So if you have any other questions, please, this is the right time to ask.
Thank you, Rabbani Bhai, for your nice presentation. Basically, my question is, the international community, basically, they come from loss and damage fund. So, what type of scope for Bangladesh to get this fund for Bangladesh people? Okay.
Well, let me not just respond to this loss and damage fund. Maybe one of our panel member can respond to this. But, I often, to respond to partially, I often argue on this issue. Climate Bridge Fund is a solidarity fund, and that addresses the loss and damages problems of the people in Bangladesh. How? If you look at the Paris Agreement, Article 49, in the draft version it was Article 50, but in the final version is Article 49. It clearly, links with the climate migrants and loss and damages problems in the same section, same article. So if Climate Bridge Fund support projects to address the problems of climate migrants, we are actually addressing the loss and damages of the communities in Bangladesh. So that's my argument, one of the arguments that I do in most of the cases. Any other question? Yes, please.
Thank you. Yeah, so in your presentation you said that with 2 projects financially you guys are doing all right, but with 6 you're already hard pressed. And there are 6 posters here, so how many projects do you currently have running? And what are your perspectives financially? Like, are you going to expand, or where does it stop for you with the amount of projects?
Well, your first part of your question, we currently support 22 projects, 14 projects under emergency response window. Financial portfolio is 10 million euro. And, under climate change window, we supported 4 projects in 2020 and 4 projects in 2021. And the 2023 call is coming by next month. So these are in total is 22 projects. What was your second part of your question? Well, we of course do have a plan, but we are discussing with both the current donors and as I was saying in my presentation, this funding mechanism is open for the other donors. I believe our panel members will also talk about it. So so our plan is to continue with the current projects, with the current protocol, and then keep it open to inject the new funds. Yep.
Hello, my name is Romana Haq. I'm with the World Bank. I have two questions, one related to the climate migrants and the other related to the actual activities that are being done. So with regard to climate migrants, my question is that in a lot of the literature on and the experiences with internally displaced people, the question always arises that if you're going to help the people who have been displaced, what do you do with the host communities? Because the host communities are not much better off usually than the people who have been displaced. So if you're picking out only the climate migrants and saying, we're going to help you, but we're not going to help the neighbor over there because that person's been living there for the last 15 years, how does that work out and how are you planning to address that? So that's one question. And my second question is, in all of the presentations, and I'd like to commend all of the organizations that have done what looks like very good work in terms of helping these climate migrants. In each of them, so first, a lot of the solutions proposed are very similar between the organizations, which is interesting to see and I think makes the problem perhaps a little bit easier to solve. If all the solutions or all the problems were very, very different, it would be more difficult, I think, to solve them on a bigger scale. But each of them said that the main challenge was finding land in order to be able to do the rainwater harvesting or enable to do the sanitation facilities or whatever. So if the main challenge for all of these is a land issue, is there something that can be done so that each organization isn't having to reinvent the wheel in terms of how they address it? Because I think each organization is having to do it separately and by themselves and trying to figure out how to do the negotiation with the landowner, whether it's a private landowner or the government. And it seems to me that if we were able to find something to help each of them address this common challenge that they all face, then that could help to expedite things and move things faster.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's a very interesting question. You know, I mean, the target of the Climate Bridge Fund is to address the problems of the climate migrants primarily. So in most of the projects, we target 50, 60, 70% of the climate migrants. It's not a sole target. 100% beneficiary do not have to be the climate migrants. So which means in every project, 10, 20, 30% come from the host communities who are vulnerable, of course, and they don't have to be the climate migrants. So in a particular slum, if we target 1,000 households, maybe 600 or 700 households are climate migrant households, and the rest are host communities. So that's one thing. And the second thing is in most of the project locations, this is a small country that I understand, and of course you also recognize, but the problems and context are different. The problems that the slum people or these communities face in Khulna is not similar with the problems that they face in Shirazganj. See, the context is different, Some area is exposed to flood, riverbank erosion, and some areas are, primarily exposed to cyclone, storm surge, salinity intrusion. So the problems are different, so the solutions have to be different, okay? So in terms of common intervention, we see in every project, every location, number one is access to water supply and sanitation. So that's the reason you see in every project ideas, you see the access to water supply and sanitation has been increased through the solutions. And the second problem is the livelihood of both men and women. So they need the grant support or the training, skills development, and the different packages from the implementing partners to improve their livelihood patterns. I think that's, should we continue with the open discussion session more? We still have 5 minutes. And I appreciate on the suggestion the first participant mentioned about the fire hazards. Although I'm not sure if it is related to climate, but I appreciate that you suggested. Our partners should consider it when they prepare the reports and the presentation in future. Thank you so much. If there is any more questions, we still have 5 minutes to continue. I think we can use this 5 minutes at the end of panel discussion. Yeah, maybe after when the panel members talk about it, and then perhaps we can use the 5 minutes. Priya, please continue.
Thank you for this interactive session. I will now request our guest of honor, SM Mehdi Hassan, General Secretary of Bangladesh Institute of Planners, to give his remarks on this session. Just for your information, Bangladesh Institute of Planners is also the organizer of this conference, so we thank him again for this occasion.
It's really a great honor to be the guest of honor, because I have a personal connection and I would like to take the opportunity. So since 2008, like from 2008 until 22, I was with German Development Corporation. So I started with GTZ and then GIZ. I was in Germany with the German government scholarship and came back and I joined with KFW. And since 2015 until 2022, I was the representative from German side for setting up this fund. So that's really a great honor to be the guest of honor for this wonderful session today. And now from the perspective of Bangladesh Institute of Planners, a great opportunity as well, because you see that before, like this is a third conference, like first and second conference, it was very much focused on academic papers and making presentations. But this time, it's a kind of hybrid. So the real examples from the ground, like the different municipalities and cities is presenting here, the evidences are created. So evidences of adaptation, locally led adaptation, or whatever we name it. So the evidences are created. Why it is a privilege for BIP? Because in the formal planning framework or formal planning system, very often the slum dwellers or poor people are really not being addressed, overlooked. This is one thing. Another aspect is for development projects, whoever is funding, whether it is government or any IFIs, usually large infrastructure, city scale infrastructures are constructed, the community aspects are missing. There are stories, people will tell that we consulted, we informed, but the led by people approach is very often it is missing, especially large funded projects. I'm not naming any, but in large funded projects. So when I was with KFW, it was also an evidence, and in different missions when I was together with other colleagues visiting different projects, it was very evident. And then I had a lot of discussion with my fellow colleagues from Germany, Embassy, GIZ, as well as BGR, Bangladeshi side, how we can really address these challenges more systematically and more sustainably. And we got the answer that we need a kind of continuous financial flow. So if it is a 3-year project, 2-year project, 5-year project will be ended, and then the results will be vanished. I mean, not vanished, but in many cases I have seen that community toilet is constructed, water tap is constructed, but after project is finished, it is not running. So in a specific case for Khulna, like in the railway slum, when I was on a mission, I saw that, I can tell the names, like DFID funded projects implemented by UNDP. They created a very nice solution for river osmosis solution for water treatment. And that was really fantastic solution and providing the water service to the community. And that water was also being used by other people. Like they could also sell the water. They were also earning from that. And in couple of months later, I was also on a mission on the same site, and I saw that the water treatment plant is not running. And then I was interviewing the community leader why it is not running, because I was really impressed to see the result, why it is not running. And they showed me that some nuts and bolts is not functioning, so that's why the whole asset is not running. After 6 months, when I was visiting the same place, I saw the building is demolished because the land was not owned by the community, so the authority was doing something, and then whole asset is vanished. So that was also one of the inspiring evidence, like how asset created by one funding and without only small funding support, why this asset cannot be maintained and be used and the desired services cannot be provided. So that was also one of the ingredient why the name is coming Climate Bridge Fund. Bridging what to what? So bridging asset with long-term maintenance support, bridging the climate migrants with the city system. The city system is run by municipalities. I mean, if we just focus there. So the primary objective is how the climate migrant can be integrated with the city system. So that is one of the, that was one of the objective, or that is one of the objective of this fund. And then with this objective, we started discussion with BMZ, German Development Cooperation Ministry, German Embassy, GIZ, also ERD, BRAC, and fortunately there was funding opportunity, and then this fund was created, a kind of long-term funding or financial strategy. How? The seed money was given by German government as a grant, and we had partnership with BRAC. The concept is that the fund will be invested, and the income out of this fund will be used for financing different small-scale projects, because small-scale community-led projects was missing from the German cooperation portfolio. So that's why this window was created, and the objective was that with this earning, the mechanism will be running. But unfortunately, the Bangladeshi regulatory system does not allow this innovative mechanism. That's why it took so long time to establish it. I'm not sure whether still these issues are there or not, whether it is solved between Germany and Bangladesh, because the grant received by Bangladeshi entity, they cannot invest. So in the Foreign Donation Act, that is regulatory act of NGOs in Bangladesh, does not allow NGOs to invest. And that does not allow the investment, the revenue generated from the investment to be further mobilization for financing projects. And there was a lot of discussion, even the involvement of Prime Minister's office and then high-level officials from German Development Cooperation Ministry. There are several discussions happened. I'm not sure yet whether this has been solved or not. So that is one issue, and another issue is like this was created a kind of long-term financial solutions. If this has been solved, or if this is going to be solved, I believe that there is an excellent window that can attract more funding from World Bank or whoever could provide funding as a grant to NGOs. And my colleague Rabbani Bhai was mentioned that government-led fund, donor-led fund was tested in Bangladesh. Bangladesh Climate Change Resilience Fund, Secretariat was hosted by World Bank. Bangladesh Climate Change Trust Fund, run by another mechanism. So that's why civil society-led fund was created, like Climate Bridge Fund, and to work with the local government as well as the climate migrants. So these are the thoughts from my side. So I changed my job. Now I work with Global Center on Adaptation. So in the Global Center on Adaptation, my colleague is here. So we also have a very interesting portfolio on locally led adaptation. So we are also working with climate migrants, a few municipalities, as well as we launched Global Hub on locally led adaptation. We also provide, encourage the local actions through award, international award in conference of parties. So there are opportunities to work together. So I encourage that GCA and Climate Bridge Fund, we exchange and we can collaborate. And my last point is from Bangladesh Institute of Planners, as I mentioned, that this year we have created opportunities to share the practical examples and evidences that can inform the planning system. So it is not only the writing papers and presenting, but also the what is happening on the ground. So that it is also a kind of learning opportunity. I believe when during the breakout session when different partners were presenting, and I hope that the members of Bangladesh Institute of Planners, they also learn how things can be developed practically, how things can be implemented practically. And the role of Bangladesh Institute of Planners is that how this can be included into the local level planning framework. So we will include this into the local level planning framework, and then this will be kind of integrated planning system for the country we would like to push forward. And I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the development partners and the participants who is making this event successful, especially the German Development Corporation and from German Embassy. We are really grateful for your support. We really would like to push forward this special planning framework that is very inclusive, and it will give some kind of coordinated, integrated planning system of the country. And we believe without planning, sustainable urbanization cannot be delivered. Internal migration, climate migration problem cannot be solved. So we need to think the whole system. We need to plan for the whole country, regions, and the local level, and this has to be implemented. And without that, Bangladesh Institute of Planners believe that without this systematic planning is in place, cannot be achieved, cannot be maintained systematically. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing your personal experiences and some of the prospects of furthering our work. Now I would like to request our special guest, Mr. Florian Holland, Head of Development Cooperation at the German Embassy in Bangladesh, to deliver his speech. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Let me just address some questions which came up by the people speaking before. First, Mehdi was mentioning the questions of the status and that's like the legal status of the fund, which was a problem in the beginning, but this is thankfully solved now. We also had some issues with the NGO Affairs Bureau for like the different projects themselves, but also these have been solved. So the only thing which is now not as we had imagined it in the beginning is that these tax issues, so that the amount, the interest received is decreased by the amount of taxes to be paid. But otherwise, like now, the project and the structure is on track. There was a question regarding loss and damage fund. So this fund was, like the idea came up 2015, so it's much older. Germany on the global level, also at the last conference of the parties, has supported the installation of a loss and damage fund, and we very much hope that the next conference of the parties will move ahead with setting up these structures. However, we all know until this loss and damage fund will become operational, it will take much more time. Is the CBF itself a kind of loss and damage fund? Yes, you can say so, because it is serving this purpose. But of course the scope is not comparable. Like the scope here with these smaller projects is of course not yet what is needed on the global level, and also not for Bangladesh. So that's only one piece of an answer, or one piece of a response, of a solution for the needs which are related to loss and damage. There is another fund, which is a global shield, where even like Germany has put more than 170 million euro in it, and also other donors have joined, where Bangladesh has been proposed to be one of the path-finding countries by the V20 Secretariat, because this came out of the German G7 and Bangladeshi V20 presidency. And there if Bangladesh is like replying to this offer and sending a letter to the V20 Secretariat, they can also become such a pathfinding country. Pakistan has already written this letter long ago, but if the government of Bangladesh is sending this letter, this will be like another instrument which will come in for the purpose of loss and damage, or related to the purpose to loss and damage, even before the global loss and damage fund, like the big solution we are also supporting, will become operational. Finally, I just have from my side only one remark, that the kind of permanent task needs a permanent structure. And that's the basic idea here. Because any other projects normally depend on that new funds are provided which are then consumed. And if this will happen or not, we don't know. It's always a hope that there will be new funds coming in and so on. But if we are realistic, we see, for example, that there are various crises in the world. And so also the attention of donors is shifting, needs to shift. And in such a situation, it is often also rather the bigger NGOs who can secure a share of the cake than the smaller ones. And by having a structure which is independent of global trends, we provide security also for local NGOs in Bangladesh. Now it's still on a very small level, but this is why we actually also organized this event, to pass on the message that any kind of investments from donors, and I mean also people in Bangladesh have money. I'm living in Gulshan, there's a lot of money in Bangladesh. So it's not only looking outside, it means also looking inside, using your connections, passing on the message that this structure exists. It is dedicated to Bangladesh, to the people of Bangladesh, and that any kind of new money coming in for this purpose would be most welcome, because it will give a permanent response to a permanent challenge, and this is climate change. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your words. At this point, I will request our chair of the session, Dr. Israt Islam, Dean, Faculty of Architecture and Planning, and Professor, Department of Urban and Regional Planning at Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, to deliver her remarks and reflections on the session. Thank you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. At this hour of the day, it's really difficult to keep your attention. So I was watching all the participants there post their presentation, and it is a great opportunity for me to be here and see what is being done at the very local level. Today's session, the beauty is there that the growth of Bangladesh is, we are growing. Despite all the barriers and economic crisis and everything, we are moving on. So it is happening because the donors are there with us, because we have the local people. Today I am giving my speech in English because for the convenience for our foreigner guests. But all the projects, they came true because of the local people. And they are the main strength. I believe in that. As you mentioned, there are a lot of money in Gulshan and Bonani and Dhaka. But the change maker of Bangladesh actually lies in Satkira, Khulna, Kumilla, Barishal, all these districts. So my salute to those people. And today we have the planners, actually those who are responsible for the planning for entire country. And we have a vision for a planned Bangladesh, rural area and in urban area. And today I'm delighted to see that in one of my research work in Buet, I found that very little amount of money was actually spent in urban areas. Most funding for climate funds went to the rural areas, and that was natural. But as we are looking at the urbanization trend and everything, and the density of population in urban areas, and the crisis they are facing, so focusing on urban area is a very timely response, and most of these projects in the urban area. So I think this presentation actually gave us some impression that as we have climate migrants, those who are moving to the urban areas, how we are going to handle those people. Because already those who are living in urban areas, they have the sanitation problem, they have the waste disposal problem, they have infrastructure facility related problem. So we are adding more people to this problem. So how to manage those? And this is where the planning is very much important, because we are talking about the crisis of land. That's a major crisis, because most of the projects after some time, they're no more, because as Mehdi said, that the building is demolished or something like that. So land ownership is a big issue. And how it can be managed if we integrate all these projects in the plan for the Poroshaba when they make it. And you know, the Poroshabas, they have the mandate for infrastructure, the management of drainage, taking care of slum areas and all that. So if your projects, the donor funded projects at CVF have, these projects are integrated with the local government organization, that will be more meaningful. Because we have seen after ILA, a lot of ponds and filters, a lot of ponds are arranged for the safe drinking water. But after some time, they are gone. So when we choose the technologies, we have to take our feedback, because already it's been a long that local people are using these water technologies and all that. So what is their view? Are they want support to buy a big storage tank for their own household, or they are looking for a river osmosis plant or something like that, where they have to walk a long distance, or they have to buy the water from that plant. So these are the issues where we have to hear the voice of the local people. And I think sometimes this is missing. After 2 year, 3 year of completion of the project, we have to get back the feedback from the local people, the local beneficiaries, how they are, what are the problems they are facing, or whether it's actually met their need. So these are the major issues, and gender is another big issue. And I don't know, and some of the projects I found that training of the females should come forward, because we know during the COVID, the women of Bangladesh actually played a very significant role for economically supporting their families. And development of skilled manpower, because you know Bangladesh get a major share of money from the expatriates. And what we send in the countries, the unskilled manpower. So why not at the very local level, particularly for the climate migrant and other poor people, why not we train them with such skill which they can sell in the countries abroad, particularly in Saudi Arabia or other countries they work in. Sometimes it comes in my mind that nursing facility, that the training for the nurse, well-trained nurse, is a demand in the entire world, because there is elderly population now, and even in our country there is lack of trained nurse. So why don't we develop this kind of training for the females and also for the males? So what I want to say in nutshell, that we have a lot of projects and a lot of time has already been spent. So what we can do, and we have SDG, climate goals, we have to integrate all those, because many of the SDG goals actually link with climate change. Particularly, we know that government has undertaken project, Ashrayan projects. And why those are separated from our slum improvement projects? Why can't we integrate those? Because in all the municipalities there are slums, and a lot of people are suffering there, and whom we are addressing with this small scale of projects. Small is beautiful, but we have to go for a bigger picture. That is very important. And that should be integrated with the SDG goals, the government's goals for providing housing for all the people. So this sort of small intervention, rather than small interventions, we can go for like bigger, not the slum improvement, housing for the poor. And for housing for the poor, it's definitely the land is the issue, the resource is the issue. And government should intervene in these areas, invest in these areas with the help of the donor agencies. Because Purvachal, our Jhilmil project in the urban areas, housing projects for the upper income group should not be the priority of government. Whenever government want to provide housing, that should be for the poor, and donors should be agencies, as they are always with us, they should support. The land tenure definitely is a major issue in that case. And another issue is waste management. Waste management is linked with climate change. Even our national contribution, there are four components. One is waste management. And the very local areas in every municipality, waste management is their primary task. But I don't know why. This area is definitely, it's a big challenge, but we have to do something, because we had our waste management policies and everything many years, it's 20 years back, we already have those. Even in National Adaptation Plan, these issues came. Even the 2 days, 15-hour rainfall in Dhaka city, New Market went underwater, Mirpur went underwater. And I think definitely impervious surfaces are mainly responsible, loss of water body is responsible, but waste disposal is another anthropogenic factor which actually causing this sort of flood. And the economic loss is tremendous. If you talk to the shop owners, they have lost like 10 lakh, 20 lakh taka due to this rainfall. And these are all climate change impacts. So I don't want to linger my speech. In conclusion, I would like to say that today this conference is from BIP hosted this conference, and thanks to them, because they are able to unite all these persons from different disciplines, and thanks to CBF to showcasing their projects. And this is a very innovative approach, the way they are managing their fund and the way they are working with the very local people. So I would say that we have to work together, the professional institute, particularly those who are linked with the built environment, because we cannot separate the built environment with the climate change issues, particularly in the this growing phase of urbanization, and the local government organization. Thank you so much, and sorry if I take a long time.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your reflections and proposing some comprehensive solutions to the impacts of climate change. At this point, to wrap up the session, I will request Ms. Diba F. Haq from KFW Bangladesh office to present her vote of thanks. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. I know everyone is very hungry probably, so I promise I will not take long. And this is really the last of our speeches today. This is a vote of thanks, and I will do justice to that. But just before I start thanking everyone who was involved, I would like to emphasize a few points that has been discussed so far. To start with that, I think I would like to say, in coherence with what Mehdi Bhai has mentioned earlier, that I also have, I would say, a little personal fascination also with this project, Climate Bridge Fund. I was involved with this from the BRAC side when this was being conceptualized later in the emergency response window time during COVID. And then later on moved on to German embassy, working for the German Development Corporation. I was looking at this, and then later now with KFW after Mehdi Bhai moved on. So I would really want to see personally also for this Climate Bridge Fund to move on And from the German government, we initiated the fund in collaboration with BRAC and would really love to see other donors coming in, as Florian Höllen has mentioned, that this was initially the idea, that when this would be successful, there would be other development partners who would be interested. And I have personally also seen the fund really go through a lot of hurdles and overcome them with a lot of patience. So thanks to the team for that. And now there is time, this is the time for other development partners to also come forward and continue with the funding, as Rabbani Bhai has mentioned earlier, that, you know, the way this fund is now existing, this can continue for some time if this is for, let's say, if this funds 2 projects or 3 projects for that matter. But if there is more funds coming in and the principal amount gets, enlarged, then definitely there will be more projects and the impact would be greater. So that's number one. And the other point that I wanted to make was, we have seen the presentations here for the 6 projects. There are 22 ongoing at the moment in the Climate Bridge Fund. And I have also personally visited many of those, and I would like to emphasize on the fact that these are majority of these projects are really, really gender responsive also on the ground, and also in line with the feminist development approach that the German government has now taken. And the coming projects, upcoming ones, will also have a highlight on that. So thank you, Dr. Ishrat, for highlighting that. I think that's a very important issue to discuss, especially in this platform, because I would also like to seek Mehdi Bhai's attention, because these are the planners here. And in the plenary session, we have heard that a good planning with bad implementation does not, end up with good results, but rather maybe a bit of a bad planning, but with good implementation. So planning is definitely important, implementation is also important, but I would like to emphasize on the fact that in terms of the planners for urban planning, I've often seen that, it's planning, all the technical issues and everything are taken into consideration, but somehow the needs of all the peoples, meaning people from the marginalized communities, or women, or people with disabilities, or people from transgender communities, are not necessarily actively taken into consideration. So that is something that I would like to urge also the upcoming planners here in this platform to keep in mind and be a little more inclusive in terms of planning. So that would be the last point from my side. And then now coming to the vote of thanks, I would definitely like, first of all, to thank the Bangladesh Institute of Planners and giving Climate Bridge Fund the opportunity to be here and to organize one of the parallel sessions and to present. Thanks to the audience also for active listening and also engaging so nicely with your insightful thoughts. Thank you to the German Embassy, to Mr. Florian Höllen for being here and for his wonderful speech. Thank you, Dr. Ishrat Islam, for your amazing contribution and thoughtful reflection on the fund itself and also the overall situation here in the country. And thanks to the Climate Bridge Fund, of course, the team, and definitely last but not the least, the partners who have presented here, and in general, all the partners of the Climate Bridge Fund. Thank you all now from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we finish, the organizers would like to present a token of appreciation to our guests. So I request the volunteers to kindly help the process. So lunch will be served at Oasis, which will be to your left after you exit the room. So Yeah, can we also have this opportunity to take a photo with all our partners as well, please?
আমাদের পার্টনারের
Partner
যারা কলিগরা আছেন তারা
organization
অনুগ্রহ
থেকে
করে
যারা
স্টেজে
আছেন।
চলে আসেন হ্যাঁ ওয়াটার এইড এনডিপি ইএসটিও কলিগরা যারা এসেছেন তারা অনুগ্রহ করে চলে আসেন ডায়াসে জি জি অবশ্যই ব্র্যাক সহ ব্র্যাক বাদ যাবে না জি চলে আসেন আমাদের পার্টনারের প্রতিনিধি যারা আছেন জি গেস্টরা একটু বসলে সুবিধা হবে হ্যাঁ Okay, so last picture with CVF, right? We are the CVF. Why will be off? So please, CVF colleagues, come here. My team, CVF colleagues, please.
Yes. CBF team, please.
Manikda. থ্যাংক ইউ আমাদের খাবারের ব্যবস্থা আছে এখান থেকে বেরিয়ে হাতের বাঁ দিকে যেতে হবে ওএসিস রুমে হাতের বাঁয়ে যেতে হবে ওএসিসে আমাদের লাঞ্চের ব্যবস্থা আছে থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ
চলেন